Hey guys, what's up? Today I want to talk a little bit about the falsetto and the whistle voice. Now, I did a video like this before on my other channel, but today I just wanted to go a little bit more in depth about the differences between the falsetto and the whistle voice, how to strengthen both, and why they're important to have in your vocal toolbox as a singer. Now, a common misconception is that there is the falsetto and the head voice. And right away, I just want to say that there is not a difference between the two. And many people will disagree with me, but both the falsetto and the head voice, I'll give you two examples right here. They're resonating 100% in your head and sound like this. So people say a falsetto is a weak, airy tone, and a head voice is a strong, more resonant tone. So a airy falsetto would sound like this, as opposed to the head voice, which would sound like, now, the only difference between these two is that there's a lot more air coming through on the first, as opposed to, there's a lot more vocal cord closure on the second one. And really, if your falsetto sounds like this normally, it just means that it's not developed yet, and you haven't had time to develop the muscle memory to have the more resonant tone in your falsetto. It's not a different voicing, which is why I disagree with people who say there's a falsetto and a head voice. It's the same exact voicing, it's just one is stronger than the other. And sometimes people use a more falsetto-like tone as an artistic choice, like, yeah, whatever, as opposed to being, so the point is they're the same voicing. At least in my opinion, they're both resonating 100% in the head. It's not the same difference as a falsetto to your chest voice, which are way obviously different voicings. So falsetto and head voice, they're the same thing. One just has more presence than the other, but it's not a different voicing. It's just one is a stronger falsetto and one is a more airy, weaker falsetto. So if your falsetto is more airy and weak, it just means you need to develop it into your head voice. So again, falsetto, head voice, same thing. You just need to develop and strengthen that part of your voice, the upper register. Now, why is having a strong falsetto important to singing? Well, to me, it's incredibly important, and I'll tell you why. Well, I mean, if you're trying to sing, it's important if you're trying to sing anything that has any kind of vocal range in it. When you're singing in your falsetto, you're using your upper register, or what's called your arytenoid effort. And these muscles in the arytenoid effort pull your vocal cords up and back. And so anytime you're singing contemporary music, usually you're singing in the middle to top of your range a lot of the time, like in pop, rock, R&B, things like that. So if you have a strong falsetto, you have a strong upper register. Now, when you're singing in your mixed voice in the middle to top of your range, you're using the arytenoid effort, the same thing as using your falsetto, just with more. You're using more of your vocal cords, basically. So if you have a strong falsetto, you're on your way to having a strong mixed voice and upper register, which is why I would argue strengthening the falsetto could be the most important part of the voice to strengthen. Also, the falsetto is the easiest on the vocal cords. It presents the least tension, as opposed to belting in your chest voice or mixed voice. So it's also the best voicing to warm up with, because it's basically like lifting 5-pound weights as opposed to starting out with 40-pound weights or something, which would be more like just belting right off the bat when you're warming up. So the falsetto is incredibly important. Now, before we get into the whistle voice, I'm going to just do a little quick exercise here to show you how to strengthen your falsetto, head voice, falsetto, whatever you want to call it, falsetto. And so it goes like this. Whenever I warm up, I warm up my falsetto, and then I start warming up my chest voice a bit, and then I start to get into the mixed voice. So for the falsetto exercise or warm-up that I do, which will help you gain muscle memory with these notes and also in your vocal cords to be a little more resonant with your falsetto, I start on A4 down to F sharp 4, minor third, and then I go up a half step every once I do all of the vowels on those notes. So when you're singing, your vowels should be placed forward in your hard palate, and they should be placed like this. So E will be at the front of your teeth. E. It's kind of hard to see with this in the way. E. A will be a little higher. Ah, O, and oo is kind of directly straightforward, straight up and down. So what you don't want to do right off the bat is have your vowels placed throaty, like or any kind of I've heard a lot of people who just naturally, for some reason, kind of place their vowels with a Kermit kind of sound, and that's a bad habit, at least in my opinion, because it doesn't give a very nice tone. So you want to make sure your vowels are placed forward in the hard palate, just as I just said. So we're going to start on E. We're going to go E, A, A, O, U, and just like this. So one thing to also focus on is trying not to have any vibrato while you're doing this, so that you can really lock in the muscle memory on each note. So you want to have no vibrato so that your voice can steadily hold that note. And then after you get these notes in your muscle memory without shaking or wavering, then you can, add as much vibrato as you want. But you don't want to have, be able to sing these notes only with kind of like no controlled vibrato. You want to be able to sing notes both ways. Flat, well, not flat, but no vibrato and with vibrato. Okay, so now we'll go through the vowels. Also, you don't want to trail off with, if you're having trouble with airiness, you don't want to do and have air kind of like lingering at the end of the note. So you kind of want to cut it off. If you're getting good resonance, you want to cut it off and stop singing right away, meaning and not There's nothing wrong with that, but as far as learning the resonance and not being breathy, you want to kind of cut off the note at the end, for now at least. Let's go up. We're now on B flat. Also, another thing I forgot to mention, if you're having trouble being really airy and it's weak and it sounds like try adding an H to the beginning of the vowel, meaning he, hey, ah, When you use an H at the beginning of a vowel, it automatically expels more air than if you're just doing the vowel itself, as opposed to he. This can help engage your vocal cords a little more to getting right on the note. He, hey, ha, ho, hoo. So that's a little tip there. Use an H if you need to. Let's keep going up. C5. Now you can hold this. You can hold these notes a little longer, a little shorter, depending on what you're comfortable with. If you can't hold it that long, then do it shorter and see what you can, what you can work with. If you can hold it longer, try and hold it longer. And what you want to do is try to land directly on the top note and down to the bottom note. But if you need to, if that's too hard, you can also slide. You can try that as well. Now on D5. Now usually around here for men, you're having to start to use more air in your diaphragm. Make sure you're giving it you're giving your diaphragm more support as you're going up here, D5 and up. Don't hold back. It's a really bad habit to hold back air and kind of be afraid to hit the note. It's much better to just go for it. If your voice can't do it or cracks, just take a second and try it again. We're now in E5. Of course, you want to try to be on pitch as much as you can, but at first, don't worry about it as much and just try to just sing the notes as best as you can. And if a lot of times as you're going higher, also your voice might start getting more airy and weaker. Just try to do the best that you can. Make sure you're not pushing or have tension. If you have any uncomfortable tension, just stop, go down a little bit and try it again and try going back up. Yeah, so now we're on E5. So now we're getting a little bit high in the falsetto. So I definitely have to use a little bit more support. Kind of like when you're singing in chest voice, going up through your chest voice, you have to use a little more support. Same thing. Now, what a whistle voice versus the falsetto would sound like here. Here's a full falsetto. The whistle voice is much thinner, so it's basically like when you're playing guitar. If you have a thicker string, it has a more resonant, lower tone, and then when you use a higher string, or a thinner string rather, it has a thinner, higher tone. It's kind of the same thing. When you're near falsetto, you're using more of your vocal cord, a thicker part of your vocal cord, and the whistle voice is a much thinner part of your vocal cord, so creating a kind of higher, thinner tone. So full falsetto, whistle voice would sound more like. So a thing to consider is when you're using a full falsetto up in this range, E5 and up, maybe even a little lower, you have to use a lot more air to sustain that note. So I'm using a good amount of air to hit that note with a full falsetto. Whereas in whistle voice, it's kind of low, actually. I have to use much less air, and I can sustain it at least twice as long, probably. So we're going to get more into the whistle voice in a second. We're going to keep going up in the falsetto, and I'll show you where I kind of transition into whistle voice usually. Now we're on F5. If this is too high for you, just stop and go lower, but I'm just giving you a little example. So G5, this is getting, it's getting up there for sure in falsetto. I usually don't like to go above G5 in pure falsetto because the vowels start to get, you have to use a lot more air. The vowels start to widen and not be as pure, or you kind of have to modify the vowel to get up there. So I usually transition to whistle voice around here or G sharp 5. But anyway, I'll do full falsetto so you hear it. So using quite a bit of support there. Doesn't sound bad, but it could be prettier, I think, in my opinion, if I used a whistle voice or kind of blended in between the two. So you can blend in between whistle voice and falsetto, just like you can blend your mixed voice, your mask resonance with your chest resonance. It's, to me, it feels very similar. So what I mean by that is if I just did this very lightly in my whistle voice, it would sound like this. Now, if I try to blend this, it's almost like feeling like you're blending your whistle into your chest, kind of. So I'm blending the whistle voice with a more falsetto tone in the lower note. It would sound like this, and it feels like I'm blending it downward into my chest, just like if I'm blending my mixed voice from mask into a little more chest to get a little bit more resonance and oomph. So you can hear there's a huge difference in between. It's more whistle. More of a blend in between would sound. Now the good thing about being able to do this is you can sustain these high notes much longer than if you were to do a full falsetto, which would sound. Well, I mean, I can sustain that pretty well, but if I did it starting off with a whistle tone and kind of leaning into a falsetto, I feel like it's much easier to sustain and almost effortless. So, the importance of the whistle voice, it's really not important to a lot of people if you're not going to be singing up here. But if you do like singing kind of more like with an operatic tone or really high falsetto, you can kind of blend it into your falsetto and be able to sing really high without that much effort. And with a nice vibrato, with a nice tone, without blasting, without having to blast away the room with that much pressure and modifying the vowel. So I usually transfer to whistle voice around there. I usually don't go above C6, even though I probably could, but I don't really ever need to. But anyway, when I get up to here, G sharp 5, what I usually do when I'm warming up the whistle voice is I put a W in front of the sound, which would be I usually don't even do E because the E vowel is so closed that in this range, I just kind of want to do open vowels to hit the note. So I usually do woo. So if you don't know how to find this part of your voice, obviously it helps if you have a strong falsetto. Having a strong falsetto, if you have a really weak falsetto, I highly doubt you're going to be able to get up here with your whistle voice. I think, if I remember correctly, I just kind of found my whistle voice after I was developing my falsetto a lot. And some people say if you do like kind of like a puppy cry, like you're using your whistle voice right there. That's your whistle voice. Anyway, so I'm going to go up a little higher. And usually when I'm warming up, I don't really care if it's pretty or not. I'm just trying to kind of stretch my chords out to warm them up, you know? Now we're on B5. Kind of really have to stretch. Even when it's that thin, you kind of have to stretch quite a bit. Now getting to C6, it's almost like I have to thin out quite a bit to get up there. It's kind of like in your mixed voice when you hit a certain note, you can really feel your voice thinning out. Anyway, yeah, that's pretty high. Now you can thin out your whistle voice even more. It's just I don't typically try to go much higher than C6 because when would I ever need to? I'm probably never gonna sing. I mean, I can sing soprano stuff, but I probably won't ever have to go above C6. So basically, this is the voicing that Mariah Carey is using, the whistle voice. But when you go up past C6, it's like incredibly thin, the part of your vocal cord you're using. And I was a bit off pitch there, but that's an A6. That's pretty on pitch. When will you ever have to hit that? It's kind of just for bragging rights. Yeah. Anyway, that's kind of like after C6, that octave is really to be like, I can sing like Mariah Carey. Anyway, I don't have much control up there. It's kind of just like, for fun. But anyway, when I'm coming down the scale doing this minor third, I can start to fill out my whistle voice into falsetto. Oh, triggered some kind of wrong note by accident. Anyway, so I can start to fill out the whistle voice, I think around G, but maybe lower. I can fill it out a little bit with a little like chesty falsetto resonance. When I say chesty falsetto, I just mean it's actually just resonating a little more in my chest. I'm not going into my chest voice, obviously, at this range. Can even hear it kind of skip into a more resonant falsetto place right there. See, it's kind of funny because I'm not going into full falsetto there. It's wavering in between the falsetto and whistle voice, which gives me much more control over the sound. So if I just stay in whistle, try to fill it out. That has some power behind it, and I'm not even doing a full sorry, wrong note, but you know what I'm saying. I'm just wavering right in between the two, which gives me much more control and resonance. Well, anyway, I hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions about going in between the two voicings, or if you want to learn more about the mixed voice or other parts of the voice, just let me know. I hope this video was helpful. If you liked it, please like and subscribe. It would help me a lot. And I'll see you next time.